Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Muriel MacDonald, and I am a national organizer and digital manager for Dayenu, a Jewish call to climate action. And I'm calling in from Chochenyo Ohlone land in San Francisco, California, where I live. If you haven't already, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your pronouns, your location, and if you're with a group, or maybe if you're with a Dayenu circle. So I'm going to give you all a moment to do that. Welcome, Barbara from Western North Carolina, Julia from Detroit, Rob from LA, Natanya and Lawrence from DC, Rachel Landsberg, Shifra, Lior, welcome. Welcome, Jim. Thank you, everybody. Now, perhaps you're here because, like me, you have watched with heartache as the Supreme Court has handed down a number of devastating rulings in the past 7 days. And perhaps you're here because, like me, you know that gathering with others can give you strength to face these hard times. Or perhaps you're here because, like me, you do not want to let today's Supreme Court ruling in West Virginia versus EPA discourage us from continuing to organize powerfully to address the climate crisis. In the next 30 minutes, we hope to offer some spiritual nourishment, share our understanding of this ruling and its implications, and offer some ways forward on climate for those who want to take action. So briefly, so that we can feel together in this moment, if you could share in the chat a word or two, how is everyone feeling? Just a word or two. How are you feeling today? Libby has shared the prompt in the chat. How is everyone feeling today? Uneasy, terrible. You knew it was coming, but you're so sad. Blurred, drained, sad but determined, discouraged, angry. Yes, I feel a lot of those feelings too. And now, if you will share one more thing in the chat, which is something that you love, a place, a person, an idea, or a feeling, something that you love that's worth fighting for. I see Lake Michigan. Phil says his kid, a niece and a nephew. Dahlia also says Lake Michigan. Birds in the backyard, Buzzards Bay. Welcome, Imam Safet Kadovic. It's good to have you on this call. Rabbi Shoshana says her son, the land and the animals where she lives, and her neighbors. Sitting around the table with our families. We will never stop organizing because the people and places that we love are worth it. And I'm so honored to be in this work with all of you. I'm pleased to be joined by Rabbi Shoshana Meira Friedman and Rena Branson to share a teaching and a song. So over now to Rabbi Shoshana Meira to offer us some Torah for times such as these.
Thanks, Muriel, and thanks all of you for being here. It's really good to be together in heartbreak, something our tradition teaches very, very strongly in all of our customs and texts. I would like us to have a moment to breathe and just to notice the air that is still there, effortlessly, hopefully effortlessly coming in and out of our bodies. And just take a moment to notice where your feelings are in your body, and if you want to give them names, perhaps numb, grief, anger, despair, you could give them names, but most importantly, notice the body sensations. It's really okay if you're numb. It's a very, very common response, very normal. Whatever you're feeling, send compassion to those feelings or the numbness. If you're not already doing so, I invite you to close your eyes and see if you can visualize a tiny seed of hope in or near your heart. Maybe an apple seed, a bean seed, a seed you can actually visualize, a maple tree seed. And the seed is not one of naive optimism. It's not one of rosy pictures and denial. It's a seed of hope, the same hope that accompanied our ancestors out of slavery when they had no idea what the future held, and the same hope that leads people today to keep fighting for their and everyone's rights and dignity despite all odds. This hope is a birthright of ours. Visualize this little seed. And just hold that seed tenderly for a moment. And if you'd like, you can open your eyes. I want to tell you a story before we return to our seed. This is a story from Masechet Ta'anit, a tractate in the Babylonian Talmud that deals with climate, with rains, with drought, with prayers, with moments of disaster in our collective rabbinic history. There was once a time, so goes this story, when no rain fell for the people of Israel during the time of the prophet Yoel. The end of Sukkot came, which should have been the beginning of the rainy season, but there was no rain. The month of Cheshvan came and went, and there was no rain. And the months dragged on through Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, and Adar, and there was no rain. The land was so dry and parched and broken. Nothing grew, animals starved, people began to run out of their stored grain until they had only tiny handfuls left. Then the first of Nisan came, the month of Passover, 2 weeks before what should have been the start of the dry season. And on that day, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it rained. The prophet Yoel went out to the people amidst this rainpour. And he went out amidst the parched and broken earth, through the streets of empty grain stores and the dismal houses with the starving people, and he proclaimed to everyone, "Go out and sow your seeds." The people protested. They said, "We have almost no grain left. We have these handfuls of wheat and barley seeds that we could eat. Should we starve? No, let's eat this food right now. If we plant it, we won't have it anymore." And the prophet said, "Nevertheless, go out and sow your seeds." And our ancestors did. And a miracle occurred for them. And they discovered wheat and barley seeds that were hidden in the walls and that were concealed in ant holes. And they planted the grain, and it grew so quickly, and it grew so big. And the people were able to bring the Omer offerings of full sheaves of grain, and they were able to feed themselves. And the Talmud teaches this is the meaning of the verse, "One who sows in tears shall weep in joy." One who sows that very last seed in famine will reap in abundance. Dear ones, we are in a drought right now. Such a parched drought of morality and a parched drought of hope. And hope is so hard to come by. The forces of tyranny and denial and oppression are wielding terrible blows to our democracy, our health, our freedom and earth. And all of us on this call are open-eyed and real seeing people. We see this. But we each have a seed of hope within us. And we can sow these seeds amidst the broken, parched ground. Throughout the pandemic, I've had this card. I don't remember who sent it to me now. Maybe Rabbi Sharon Cohen-Ennisfeld. And it's Grace Paley who says, "The only recognizable feature of hope is action." We will not stop fighting. So close your eyes once more and just find that seed. Maybe it's the apple seed or maple or pea or bean seed. In your heart, see it, see it, see it. Maybe touch it. We can hoard these seeds, which I think means giving up and saying it's not worth planting them, that we don't have the energy or resources to do anything for the future. But I know that we will not. I know that we will continue to be part of this movement to sustain life on Earth, the movements for democracy and liberation. And when we take actions as part of those movements, we are sowing our seeds, even the last tiny bit of hope we have. When we sow it, we'll grow new hope. And as we sow these seeds, each of our own individual ones, amidst this moral famine, together they form a bountiful crop. Yes, we are losing so many battles. And yes, the rains of good news have not come in a long time. But I deeply believe and know in my deepest kishkis that we are part of a much bigger paradigm shift that is afoot in our species and around the globe, and that we are in this for the long haul, likely beyond any of our lifetimes to understand. These days we're living through, these days, months, decades, maybe centuries, are the death throes of an old world order. And this old world order is thrashing and fighting his demise with everything he's got. But while he's busy doing that, we are planting seeds of hope, and a new world is sprouting, and we are her gardeners and her farmers. May we go from strength to strength and seed to seed. And now I am truly honored to introduce Rena Branson, whose music has been so inspiring to me personally. Rena is a Jewish composer, ritual leader, and educator who uplifts personal and collective healing through song. They founded a queer nigun project, which organizes singing events for LGBTQIA+ folks and sends audio content to people in the Jewish community who are incarcerated. Rena serves as a cantorial soloist at Congregation Lev Ha'ir in Philadelphia, and her first original album, woot, that's great news, will be out this fall. Over to Rena.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Shoshana, for those beautiful, stirring, and needed words. So the first song I'll share with you all is called I Will Carry You, and it's based on a line from Isaiah that says, when you turn gray, I'll still be carrying you, / bear you / be patient with you. The root esbol can mean all of those things. And for me, this is really a song about remembering that I'm held by something greater than myself, whether I'm able to feel that as a sense of the divine or by community, and even by a sense of my higher self just loving me and being compassionate towards me as I move through grief, as I move through rage. So I want to share this song with you all. It's quite simple, and invite you to sing along if you feel comfortable after a few times through, staying on mute. But the words will be in the chat box and you can follow along. I will carry you through these changes. 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 Now the Hebrew, ve'at seva, ani espo, ve'at seva, ani espo, ve'at seva. Ani espo ve'at seva. Ani espo, now as nigun. Ay, ananai. Ay, 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 ay. Yay, na, yananai. Yay, na, na, yay. Ay, ay, yananai. Yay, na, na, yay. Yay, na, yananai. Yay, na, na, yay. One more time, let's sing it softly and place a hand on your heart if you feel comfortable. Just feeling that embodied bit of compassion for yourself in this time. Ay, ay, ananai. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, ay, ananai. Yay, nay, nay, yay. I will carry you through these changes. I will carry you through these changes. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it to Dahlia Rockowitz, Dayanu's Washington director, to help us understand what the impact of West Virginia versus EPA is and what we can do about it.
Thank you, Rena. I really feel like I spend my days in the head, and it's so nice to embody my heart, but I'm going to take us back to the head for just a few minutes as I share some of the initial analysis about today's West Virginia versus EPA decision. And I will say that it's going to take a long time to fully understand the decision, but here's what we know right now. The case centers around whether the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has the authority to regulate carbon pollution from power plants under the Clean Air Act. It's a mouthful. Here's why that matters. First, at roughly 1/4 of emissions, power plants are the US's second leading contributor to the greenhouse gases driving climate change. So any attempt to limit regulations and standards on power plants limits climate action. Second, executive action is a critical venue for action that can turn the tide of the climate crisis and ensure that we have clean air and water and keep our communities safe. And lastly, this decision has the potential to continue our country's shameful history of environmental racism. Black, brown, Indigenous, and other people of color communities are far more likely than their white neighbors to live next to polluting facilities such as power plants. That's why you often hear us refer to these communities as frontline or fence line communities. At Dayanu, we teach about discourses of delay. These are the strategies fossil fuel companies and those who do their bidding use to end run meaningful climate action. This includes redirecting responsibility, emphasizing the downsides of climate action, and pushing incremental non-transformative change. West Virginia versus EPA is a classic delay tactic, tying up EPA's work in legal challenges, in this case, pausing implementation of this power plant rule until the cases could make their way through the courts, and then practicing linguistic and reasoning gymnastics to make the justices' reading of the law match their archaic, ultra-conservative, with a small c, conservative views. In this case, Chief Justice Roberts, writing the majority opinion, found that both Congress and the EPA overreached their authority. The former, Congress, by giving broad powers to the executive branch, and the latter, EPA, by using those powers. This decision smacks of hypocrisy. Writing for the dissent, fellow Jew, Justice Elena Kagan wrote, Whatever else this court may know about, it doesn't have a clue about how to address the climate change. And let's say the obvious, the stakes are high. So what does this mean for the future of climate action? There's no denying that today's ruling both limits and puts a chilling effect on executive climate action. While not outright overturning the EPA's authority to limit greenhouse gas emissions, or even limit greenhouse gas emissions from power plants, the Biden administration will undoubtedly move slower and more cautiously. In fact, they've already delayed the release of their new revised power plant standards. And the standards that they do issue are likely to get tied up in future legal challenges. But when it comes to climate change, there was and never will be a silver bullet solution. To respond to the climate crisis on the scale that science and justice demand, we need to use every tool available: corporate, legislative, executive, and so much more. Systems level change. When we need to be giving everything we've got to climate action, hamstringing federal action matters, and it matters a lot. But we have other impactful levers of change at our disposal, and we as the Jewish climate movement, working with the broader climate justice movement, have a critical role to play in pushing forward urgent action, I'm now going to turn it over to Muriel to share more about what Dayenu has planned and how you can work with us to respond to today's decision. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send them to the hosts via chat, and I will do my best to respond, but I hope you will give your full attention to Muriel as she shares what comes next. So Muriel, over to you.
Thank you, Dahlia. So as Dahlia lays out for us, this ruling does not block all pathways forward for federal climate action, let alone our ability to use other levers of change. Here at Dayenu and across the environmental movement, we've been organizing towards some climate wins that we can still move forward on. And at Dayenu, that looks like 3 ongoing campaigns: our work to pass big, bold investments in climate, good jobs, and justice through Congress, our multi-year All Our Might campaign to stop the money pipeline and keep fossil fuels in the ground, and Chutzpah 2022, launching in early September, where we'll turn out climate-concerned voters in key states and make sure they know the stakes of this election and how to get to the polls. And now each of these campaigns continues to be vitally important in the wake of this ruling, and we need your help for their success. So I'm just going to share briefly a little more about each of these, and we'll share a link in the chat for each of them for how you can follow up afterwards and help us move forward on these avenues for change that still exist. So for our Just Green Recovery campaign to change federal policy, we've been campaigning with all of you for well over a year to pass these critical investments, including 16 actions outside our senators' offices last summer. But delay and denial have stalled this for a long time. And at long last, we're finally seeing some movement, and we believe there's still an opportunity for Congress to finally pass a reconciliation bill that provides justice, jobs, and renewable energy for all. And the best thing you can do to get this legislation over the line, you may have guessed it, call your senators. So Libby's going to share a link in the chat, and I invite you right after this call, if you're feeling ready to take action, to pick up the phone and call your senators. This is the time to do it now. Our All Our Might campaign is to move money out of fossil fuels and towards climate solutions. This past Passover, Dayenu Circles and partners hosted over 24 actions outside of offices and branches of the largest investors in fossil fuels. And we're going to keep the pressure on these institutions while supporting our own communities to shift our communal assets. And we're planning to stand side by side with frontline communities in key moments when they're opposing fossil fuel infrastructure. And this campaign is particularly strategic because it offers a way forward in the face of potential political gridlock, especially when scientists tell us we only have 3 years to stop mining, drilling, and fracking to avoid the most harmful impacts of the climate crisis. So Libby's just shared another link in the chat to learn more about our All Our Might campaign and follow along with this important piece of our work. And then finally, Chutzpah 2022. Please let us know in the chat if you participated in Chutzpah 2020, which was one of our earliest campaigns. And at the start of August, we'll be launching Chutzpah 2022, running the same voter turnout playbook that was so effective in 2020. Our phone banking parties include live music and lots of community and spirit. And this is a nonpartisan voter mobilization effort to ensure that Jewish and climate voters in key states and our elected leaders understand what's at stake in this crucial moment. So we'll be hosting big open to all phone bank parties, and you can also sign up to host a local event, whether in person or virtual, to make calls with your people. I know word on the street is that this election might not go so well for the climate, but the future is not yet written, and we only have ever won by organizing. So we're going to do a very quick poll about this work to let us know. Would you join a phone bank? Would you host a phone bank? Are you planning on engaging in elections work with another organization, or is electoral work not for you this year? Thanks everyone filling this poll out. Great. And can we share the results of this poll with everyone? I hope folks can see it. Results. So we can see folks are ready to participate in phone banks. Thanks to those of you who said you're interested in hosting a phone bank, and everyone engaging in electoral work with other organizations. We see you and we appreciate you too. So if you're interested, if you said you're interested in phone banking with us or hosting a phone bank, that third link in the chat that Libby's sharing is to sign up to join us for Chutzpah 2022. There is so much work to be done, and we can only win if we organize for the long haul. Thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight and for being with us in this work. I'll hand it over to Rena to close it out, who's going to sing us one of my favorite songs. Rena, I don't know if I've already told you this, but I've been listening to this song on repeat throughout the pandemic. And it's a song that I turn to when I need to remember how powerful we are when we organize together. So over to you, Rena.
Thank you. And the words will be in the chat box as well if people would like to sing along. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water shape the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water shape the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together we are strong.
Thank you, everyone.